Welcome. Tiny Hands, Big Dreams. Compost. Everybody needs it. It's not fun to talk about in general, but it's actually really important. It's sort of the cornerstone of getting your soil to function correctly and solving a lot of problems. You have moisture problems, compost. If you have issues with the mineral deficiencies, generally compost. Do you have issues with weather things, something? Compost. So we didn't have a lot of organic material here in our soil. As much as it's green, is everywhere, it decomposes very rapidly, and there's a ton of rain, so it gets washed out. We have built an aerated static pile compost. Now there's different styles of compost, and they have different applications. An aerated static pile is more traditionally used in large-scale municipal cities. Will set up aerated static piles, and what I mean by that is the pile is static. It doesn't move, it stays. You don't mess with it, but it's aerated via pumps, air pumps. So what you get is you get very good oxygenation. You can set the schedule. Traditionally, if you have a standard static pile of compost, it's there. Oxygen diffusion is real bad. There. So that's just turned on. That is our pump. We're going to get to him in a minute. It's good timing, pump. We'll get back to that. In a static pile, the oxygen diffusing in is really bad. So a pile runs out of oxygen in its good proper state. You get your different thermobaric, thermophilic. There's a whole chart of the stages of a compost pile. In the stages of a lot of activity, you're running out of oxygen in the pile about every 30 minutes. And it just eats it up. You just can't get it in fast enough. So they say, oh, you have to turn your compost pile every month, every week, every 30 minutes. But it takes X amount of hours to turn a cubic yard of compost by hand. It's a very labor-intensive thing. Now, if your compost pile runs anaerobic, then you can get the bad funguses and bacteria that sometimes you don't want growing, which can make for problems in the garden. So, an aerated static pile has the benefit of you don't have to turn it. You don't have to dig it up. You don't have to mess with it. It's an unpleasant job. Nobody likes that. It does have the cost of you have to put in a blower system. Now, for this, I have a little blower that I bought, which is actually used for blowing dust out of computers and shops and things. It's not the greatest quality, but it fits the purpose just fine. It cost me $30 at a local hardware store. It's set to run. I have it set because of the stage where it's at about a minute every 30-45 minutes. At different stages, I could set it differently. Now, I do use a timer for that. I have a cycle timer, which I had left over from my adventures in indoor growing from years back, when you would turn pumps and things and stuff on a regular cycle. It's a lovely little box. Does all of that. Super easy to set. Is by far the greatest sort of timer just to have around for handy applications like this. So you do have to spend a little bit. You have to get power to it. Slightly problematic. And you put in a piece of pipe. But then you don't have to come and turn your compost pile again. So what do you get? Well, this is a pile of mostly wood shavings, which do not decompose here. It's a type of wood that is actually quite resistant to decomposition. Came out of the goat houses. Some out of the duck house, but mostly it's goat. That goes into here. We try to layer in some vegetation, some greens to off balance it, because we have such a high carbon ratio. Your carbon nitrogen ratio is really important. If you get it too out of whack, it's just a nasty, stinky pile that does nothing. Run out of air, it stinks. Too much nitrogen, a pile of grass, it just stinks, it won't do anything. Too much wood chip, too much carbon, it won't do anything. You need the nitrogen sort of as a fuel to process it. Now, my goal with this was to be a little carbon heavy and to have a slightly slower processing rate. And the heavy carbon was, in my research, really good for the soil. You get a fungal-based compost, which once you bring back, there's some amazing research and testing done by, oh gosh, I forget the man's name, who came up with a version that doesn't use the pump, but he uses tubes all throughout it to hold airspace, so it kind of naturally aerates. And he was able to take a piece of Arizona desert and turn it into super highly productive farmland where they just keep taking and taking and taking. Literally a chunk of desert, no fertilizer. It's really kind of an interesting concept, regenerative farming. I think I just ate a bug. That's unpleasant. So what I've done here is I created a large pile. This is about 8 feet across by 6 feet across. I have 3, 4, 5 cubic yards. It's really sort of hard to say. Maybe it's closer to 3 or as high as it is. At first, I put the pipe in the bottom, and it's full of holes pointing downwards so that I can inject air in the bottom and it will come up in. And on top of that, I actually put a bunch of sticks across it just to try to hold a little bit of an airflow as a distribution manifold. And then we filled the whole thing to, I don't know, I got about 2 foot deep. Now, we were using it that way and just doing it as one big pile. And then at some point I came in and took the whole pile from the right and I stacked it on the left, making the left pretty high and the right empty. This gave me more room to continue putting into the same pile. I only have one blower. Total cost spent into this is like $34. Now, we have this structure, which is really just a wattle and daub test. Actually, the kid did it. That's just clay and some sticks. It was just one of our early wattle and daub tests to see, like, could we just throw together a structure? Yeah, you can actually just pound some sticks into the thing and smoosh clay and cal all over it, and it's lived out here. This has been wet for going on like a year and a half. It rained for a year and a half, like pretty regularly. My broken bucket and my sack is a super simple roof to access what's inside. Cheap and easy was what I was going for. Now, I want to take a shovel to this and just see where we're at, which I have not done yet. Okay, well the shovel goes in full depth. That is actually quite pretty. Try to get a close-up. It's dark, it's decomposed, it's soft. There's still some wood chips present that are in there. There's some sticks, although they're very soft. The wood chips are good because that's going to hold me a little bit of soil structure. There's almost no smell. That's part of the beauty of the aerated static pile. This was literally just poop and wood chip. I'm sensitive to smells. This literally has no smell, so it's rich. It's ready to be applied to the garden, and that's on top. It'll be better deeper down. I did put a piece of plastic on the side we're not using. Gives it a little bit of help in the heat department, keeps out rain that we were having, and it keeps out the chickens that have continuously knocked the top off the side that is open to them. So good compost, properly applied, amended, can totally revitalize the soil. This was our method of making, inexpensively, good compost. I now have several yards. Oh, this is not available. I can't buy compost here. I mean, there is a place at Aloha that does it, but they don't do it right. And it has all sorts of nasty funguses. We bought some. Everything that we put it in that was sensitive to a fungus died of the funguses. They put a lot of stuff in there, and it is not aerated correctly. It is the only thing that's available. This is than a superior thing that you can make at home. So once this side is done, I'll go ahead and I'll flip the cover onto this side. We're going to dig this side out. We'll use it in the garden. I'll give this side a few more months. Because we have a slower rate, it takes us a little longer. A true aerated static pile, you're into it maybe 2 months. 2.5 months. Like you're in, temperatures come up, they come down, they flatten out, boom, it's composted, it's out. It's certified, it hit temperature, everything's great. Unfortunately, we wanted something a little bit different. We wanted a little more structure, we wanted the wood chips, we wanted more carbon. It's a slower methodology. So I'm going to have to let this sit for another, I'm going to probably give it 3 or 4 more months on this side. Just because we're doing it a little bit different. So that's what it is. That's a cicada, bane of my existence. What else do we got here? Not so much. So there's other methods of compost. There's windrows, which is you hope the wind goes through it. Static pile. There's all the rotary things, the gadgety stuff, and some of them work okay. You gotta get the bigger ones though, like the rotating barrels and the flippable things. And basically by flipping it, you've introduced air back into it. They do okay. You don't have enough real size to get up to a proper temperature if that's what you're going for. But if you're just sorting up and whatever in there and you're going to leave it for a year, and you have to have a couple of them, they're pretty good. They're an easy answer. They're expensive. Total cost was $30 for the blower, a little bit of screen. We used this black screen again that we use on a lot of things. The timer I had, I don't know the timer. You'd have to check hydroponic catalogs for that. And that's sort of it. It's sort of here. This was the child's time. Oh, we cut a hole in it because the chickens really wanted to get in there, so we just went and cut them a hole. We're like, fine, you know, lay an egg, go lay an egg in there. And then they didn't want to go in again. Maybe 50 cents worth of cow went into the clay. It's good times. We're now actually going to start being able to take this and roll it out and get it into our garden and hopefully start to reap the benefits of producing this. All right. That's about it for our compost pile. I'm happy to answer questions about it. I'm happy to discuss things related to it. I hope this was of use and interest to you. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.